Europe has been tightening its immigration policies, leading to a surge in deportations across multiple countries in 2024 to 2025. Many nations are ramping up efforts to send back undocumented migrants, rejected asylum seekers, and individuals involved in criminal activities. Rising concerns over border security, crime, and economic strain have pushed governments to implement stricter policies, increase police raids, and expand detention centers. Countries like France, Germany, and Italy are focusing on deportations to curb illegal immigration, while Greece and Poland are fortifying their borders. However, these measures have sparked controversy, with human rights organizations raising concerns about violations and unsafe deportations. This video explores 10 European countries leading the crackdown, their strategies, challenges, and the impact of their policies on migrants and local communities. 10. Poland. Poland has significantly increased deportations, issuing over 7,000 removal orders in 2024, mainly targeting migrants from the Middle East, Africa, and Ukraine. As a frontline country for migration into the EU, Poland has expanded border security, particularly along the Belarusian border, where it has constructed barriers to deter illegal crossings. The government has also strengthened deportation agreements with countries like Georgia and Moldova to facilitate returns. Many deportations involve individuals who entered Poland illegally or overstayed their visas. The government has faced criticism for its harsh treatment of migrants, with reports of pushbacks and detentions under poor conditions. However, Polish authorities argue that strict policies are necessary to protect national sovereignty and prevent uncontrolled migration. Deportations have been politically charged, with opposition groups calling for more humane approaches. Despite this, Poland continues to enforce strict immigration policies, aligning with its broader nationalist agenda on border security. 9. Netherlands. The Netherlands has adopted a tougher stance on deportations, issuing over 6,200 removal orders in 2024. Authorities have prioritized the removal of rejected asylum seekers, undocumented workers, and individuals linked to criminal activities. The Dutch government has increased police efforts to identify and detain migrants without legal status, particularly in urban centers like Amsterdam and Rotterdam. Deportation flights have been arranged with countries including Algeria, Turkey, and Nigeria, streamlining the process through diplomatic agreements. The Netherlands has also implemented stricter asylum regulations, making it harder for migrants to appeal deportation orders. While voluntary return programs exist, many migrants resist deportation, leading to legal battles and public protests. Human rights organizations have raised concerns about forced removals, particularly involving families with children. Despite the backlash, the Dutch government remains firm on reducing unauthorized immigration, arguing that stricter enforcement is necessary to maintain national security and economic stability. 8. Belgium. Belgium has ramped up deportations, issuing over 4,800 removal orders in 2024, primarily targeting failed asylum seekers and individuals with criminal records. The government has expanded its detention network to hold migrants awaiting deportation, increasing police raids in major cities like Brussels and Antwerp. Belgium has also introduced stricter residency checks, requiring migrants to provide proof of employment or risk removal. Deportations have focused on individuals from North Africa, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe, with authorities expediting return agreements with Morocco and Albania. The government has implemented financial incentives for voluntary returns but has struggled with enforcement due to legal challenges and diplomatic resistance from some countries. Critics argue Belgium's policies violate human rights, particularly in cases where deportees face unsafe conditions. However, the government insists these measures are necessary to maintain public order and reduce the strain on the country's asylum system. 7. Austria. Austria has intensified deportations, issuing 5,750 removal orders in 2024, with a focus on rejected asylum seekers and undocumented migrants. The government has expanded police operations to identify and detain individuals without legal residency, particularly targeting those from Afghanistan, Syria, and the Balkans. Austria has strengthened agreements with countries like Serbia and Pakistan to ensure faster deportations, using charter flights for mass removals. Authorities have also introduced stricter asylum policies, limiting legal appeals and increasing detention periods before deportation. The rise in deportations has sparked debates, with right-wing parties pushing for even tougher measures, while human rights groups warn of potential violations. Austria also faces difficulties deporting migrants to conflict zones, as courts often block removals on humanitarian grounds. Despite these challenges, the government remains committed to reducing illegal immigration, balancing border control with labor market demands, particularly in industries that rely on migrant workers. 6. Italy. Italy issued 7,130 removal orders in 2024 and has focused on deporting migrants from North Africa and the Middle East. The Italian government, under Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, has taken a hardline stance on migration, calling for stronger border security and stricter asylum policies. Italy has signed agreements with Tunisia and Libya to speed up deportations and prevent boats from reaching its shores. The government has also allocated more resources to repatriation flights and expanded detention facilities for undocumented migrants. Deportations primarily target individuals with rejected asylum claims, criminal records, or suspected terrorist links. However, Italy faces logistical challenges, as some migrants refuse to cooperate or lack travel documents. Human rights groups have criticized Italy for its treatment of deportees, citing concerns about unsafe conditions in return countries. The government has also explored the idea of offshore processing centers, similar to Australia's model, to handle asylum applications outside Italian territory. Despite these efforts, Italy remains a major entry point for migrants, with thousands arriving via the Mediterranean. As a result, migration and deportation policies continue to be a heated political issue, influencing Italy's relations with the EU and neighboring North African countries. 5. Greece. Greece has been a key player in Europe's deportation strategy, issuing 7,435 removal orders in 2024. As a frontline country in the EU migration crisis, Greece has faced an influx of migrants arriving via Turkey and the Mediterranean. The Greek government has ramped up deportations, particularly targeting asylum seekers whose applications have been rejected. Many deportations are carried out under the EU-Turkey deal, which allows Greece to send migrants back to Turkey in exchange for financial aid and resettlement agreements. Greek authorities have also tightened border security, with increased patrols and the use of advanced surveillance technology to deter illegal crossings. However, deportation policies have drawn criticism from human rights organizations, which argue that some asylum seekers are being sent back to unsafe conditions. Reports of pushbacks, where migrants are forcibly returned without due process, have sparked international concern. Despite these controversies, Greece continues to enforce strict migration policies, working closely with EU partners to manage deportations. The government also plans to expand detention facilities to accommodate migrants awaiting removal. While deportation efforts have intensified, Greece remains a critical transit country, making migration control an ongoing challenge. 4. Spain. Spain issued 13,645 removal orders and carried out 3,160 deportations in mid-2024, reflecting its growing efforts to manage immigration. The country has faced significant challenges due to its proximity to North Africa, making it a key entry point for migrants from Morocco, Algeria, and sub-Saharan Africa. Spanish authorities have increased maritime patrols to prevent illegal crossings via the Mediterranean and Canary Islands. Deportations have particularly targeted individuals who have exhausted asylum appeals or committed crimes. Spain has also strengthened agreements with Morocco and Senegal to expedite returns, often using charter flights for mass deportations. However, legal and diplomatic obstacles sometimes delay removals, as some migrants lack proper identification, making it difficult for their home countries to accept them back. Spain has also seen political divisions over immigration policies, with conservative parties pushing for stricter enforcement while left-leaning groups advocate for more humane treatment of migrants. Despite deportation efforts, Spain continues to struggle with a backlog of asylum cases and overcrowded detention centers. The government is also working on migration reforms that balance labor needs with border security, as industries like agriculture and construction rely heavily on migrant workers to fill labor shortages. 3. Sweden. Sweden has significantly ramped up deportations, with 3,185 individuals removed in mid-2024. The country has adopted a tougher stance on migration following an increase in crime rates linked to gang activity, which authorities claim is partially fueled by undocumented migrants. The Swedish government has expanded police powers to conduct more identity checks, leading to a rise in arrests of individuals without legal residency. Authorities have also introduced new policies that make it easier to detain migrants before deportation, aiming to prevent them from going into hiding. Additionally, Sweden has pursued diplomatic negotiations with countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia to facilitate removals. Deportations have focused on rejected asylum seekers, individuals involved in criminal activity, and those overstaying visas. However, Sweden's policies have sparked controversy, with some arguing that they violate international human rights norms. The government has also implemented stricter family reunification laws to discourage further migration. Despite these measures, Sweden faces difficulties in deporting individuals to conflict zones where their safety cannot be guaranteed. As a result, Swedish authorities continue to refine their approach, balancing border control with humanitarian obligations while facing increasing political pressure from right-wing parties demanding even stricter policies. 2. Germany. Germany has been implementing stricter deportation policies, issuing 12,885 removal orders and deporting 3,710 individuals in mid-2024. The German government has increasingly prioritized the return of rejected asylum seekers, particularly those from countries like Afghanistan, Syria, and North Africa. Deportations have been sped up with new laws that limit appeals and increase police powers to detain individuals before removal. Chancellor Olaf Scholz's administration has also negotiated agreements with nations such as Georgia, Moldova, and the Western Balkans to ensure faster deportations. In some cases, Germany has offered financial incentives for voluntary returns, but the success of this approach has been limited. German authorities have also cracked down on individuals suspected of criminal activities or links to extremist organizations. However, the government faces pushback from opposition parties and human rights groups that argue deportation policies ignore humanitarian concerns, particularly for those facing persecution in their home countries. The country has also been debating the use of third-party nations for processing asylum seekers, a controversial move that mirrors the UK's Rwanda policy. As deportation efforts continue, the German public remains divided, with rising concerns over both national security and the economic necessity of migrant labor. 1. France. France has been at the forefront of Europe's immigration crackdown, issuing 31,195 removal orders and executing 3,870 deportations in the second quarter of 2024. The country has particularly targeted undocumented migrants, rejected asylum seekers, and individuals deemed a security risk. French authorities have expanded detention centers and increased border security to curb illegal immigration, particularly from Africa and the Middle East. In some cases, deportations have sparked protests from human rights groups who argue that the process lacks transparency and violates asylum rights. The French government has also tightened visa policies for countries that do not cooperate in taking back deported nationals. Furthermore, authorities have focused on clearing migrant camps in cities like Paris and Calais, aiming to deter further arrivals. The government has strengthened agreements with countries such as Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco to facilitate deportations. These measures align with President Emmanuel Macron's broader efforts to balance migration control with economic needs, as France still relies on migrant labor in sectors like construction and healthcare. While deportation numbers remain high, the government faces challenges in enforcing removals due to legal appeals and logistical hurdles, making this issue a contentious topic in French politics.